It's funny we're on, Brad Arington. I just literally got a text from my good friend at Outdoor Channel. It says, "Good morning. Where will Axel be in the next 2 to 3 months? I'm thinking Luna will go into heat October, November." I've already sent you Luna's records. Is that what you call them when you're going to do a breeding? Let's start there, Brad Arington, Mossy Pond Kennel, Mossy Pond Retriever, Eukanuba Duck Dog Series. What do you look for? You've been doing this a long time. What are you 100% have to have when I call you and say, "Hey, there's a dog interested, there's a female interested in breeding with Axel"?
You know, we've talked about this a good bit before. You know, health clearances is something that everybody's working together to prevent what we used to have, you know, when I was coming up. Hip dysplasia in labs, of course, is terrible. In the English pointers down here in South Georgia in the quail woods, you know, EIC, which was terrible in the English pointers, which is exercise induced collapse. Um, Man, you want a great dog, a performing dog, a compliant dog, a dog with the right disposition around duck camp, around the campfire, but has enough horsepower and motor in the duck swamp. But man, the health clearances do not breed. I don't care if it's a Lamborghini 4-wheel drive. If he's got bad hips, the dam's got bad hips, bad elbows, you know, check all the health clearances first. So EIC, CNM, heart, thyroid, hips, eyes, elbows. Check all the health clearances. Get with somebody knowledgeable, and make sure that y'all are breeding two healthy dogs where the longevity of that dog and in your household and in the duck woods, you can hunt with them. You know, if those things are checked, and these puppies that we're turning out now, they're living to 15, 16 years old, and we're hunting them at 11 and 12 some. You know, that 12's pushing it, but back when hip dysplasia was terrible and everybody would just say, "Hey, Farmer Joe's got a good dog, I got a good dog, we're breeding them," and they had bad hips at 6 and 7, and that was pretty normal. That's pretty common. You know, 50% of your labs, maybe higher, back in the 80s and 90s. And then, I mean, some at 2 and 3 years old couldn't go. So hip dysplasia is terrible in labs. EIC is something that we're weeding out. But yeah, the health clearances, and then of course all the other bells and whistles. You want one with enough horsepower to go, but you want that disposition around campfire and around camp where the dog's not tearing up everything into all of the other guys in camp stuff, where the dog can hang out, be a buddy, be a pal. Everybody likes patting him on the head and loving on him. But and in the duck blind, he's cool, calm mannered. When you're in the duck boat in the morning, you're going out. You know, anxiety's a little up. Cold water, icy water. 4 men in a boat. It's freezing outside. You definitely don't have any accidents. That dog, he's a good boat dog. He's gonna sit there and be compliant, be a little gentleman or a little nice lady. Whether you put him on the stern or the bow, whatever you prefer for your place command. You want to go through all that as well, but then have enough horsepower. You know, mine and your talks, gosh, what has it been now? 12, 13 years ago when we started describing and talking the 2-year process of the breeding process, what we wanted if we could clay mold Axel. And I think that's what we got, you know, and we got a dog that's, I mean, a little gentleman around camp, but then when you get in that duck hole or you got a big honker at 400 yards, he's going to be able to go get that crippled and bring it back. He's got plenty of horsepower, but he's cool, calm, and collective. The health clearances on the sire and dam on Axel were perfect. Everything was clear. Everything was perfect. And we got a dog that you're going to hunt 10, 11 years, and you're going to be able to enjoy him another 5 years of retirement.
Specifically speaking of Axel, staying on Axel, is he just turned 9? Is that too old to breed Axel in conjunction with this text I just got?
9 gets tough, you know. We've got Axel collected for you down here in Thomasville, Georgia. So we have access to that. But yeah, you know, swimmers start getting a little weak on how many you have after age 8. Can they still breed? 100%. I mean, I've had a ton of litters all the way up to 10, but yeah, the swimmer count drops significantly after about 8 years old.
And how old does a female have to be before you Mossy Pond would be confident in breeding a female? Scientifically, how old do they have to be?
So, a lot of people have a different opinion on this. Of course, we try to do it as perfect as we can, that's most healthy for the female. And you never breed until they're after 2 years old and they've had all their health clearances. Hips and elbows can't be tested till after 2 years old. And then I don't like to breed after they're 7. So the windows from 2 years old till 7 years old, and I never like to have more than 3 litters in a female's life. And three's pushing it. Two is a good deal. Having 2 litters, when she's young, around 2 or 3 years old, and then I like to have another one, maybe after a year off, let her recoup, let everything tighten back up, and then have another litter. Is what I recommend. Now, there may be a ton of breeders on here thinking I'm nuts. A lot of people breed more than that. A lot of people breed outside of the 2 to 7 year window. But if you want to do it the perfect way and the perfect healthy way for your female, that's when you do it.
When you start talking about the breeding process and you were talking about Axel and swimmers get a little bit decreased as age starts to set in. If the genetics are perfect, does age have anything to do with a bad breeding besides her not being able to take or his sperm not being there? Nothing else can be affected. His genetics stay the same, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's no different than us. Michael Jordan has a kid when he's 70 years old. You're still getting those Michael Jordan genes, right? But it's just going to be tougher for him to produce at 70 rather than when he was 25.
Do you feel that do you feel when you start talking about breeding a dog, males can have as many as they want, correct? They could have as many breedings in their lifespan as they want. Can you breed a male? You just said you put a number on the female for health reasons. Is there a number that you put on a male?
No, sir. Nope, nope. It doesn't hurt them at all. Of course, if we're trying to better the breed, so all of us lab trainers and breeders, we want to make the best out there. So if we have a stud that is really producing nice stuff, but you can have a stud that is a Michael Jordan, but doesn't produce Michael Jordan babies. But you also may have a Brad Arington basketball player that may produce Michael Jordan basketball players. If they're producing good, I encourage my guys to breed them as much as possible with compliant females to what we're after. And there's 20 different categories that I work for. Some are just pets. Some are field trial dogs. Some are what we did for you for Axel. That is kind of a balance of everything. But if they work together, the only thing that I've seen side effects from that, and it sounds kind of crazy, but don't want to get too personal, but it can make the males just a little more jacked up, a little bit high in what they do and a little bit crazy about collecting them and breeding them. And then that residually affects when you're hunting and another female comes around, etc.
What's the most litters you have personally seen in your professional career that one of your studs or champion dogs, one of those dogs that was sought after, everybody wanted a puppy from that dog's genetic line? What's the most litters you've seen in your career, Brad?
I couldn't put a number on litters. This is pretty cool information though. So there was a catalog and a book from a national back in the 80s or 90s that I got, and a dog by the name of Lean Mac. He was the top producing sire ever to live for field champion. He produced more field champions than any other sire. So he produced a bunch of Michael Jordans. All right. Well, I looked in this book, and let's just call it, there were 100 um, dogs at the national. So these are field champions that are running for the national event this year. And there were over 50% of the dogs out of that 100, there were over 50 of them, all sired by the same dog, which was lean Mac.
So
So you could imagine at that time how many. Um, I have a customer that owns the last remaining semen of lean Mac, and me and him were discussing that and talking about it. But yeah, the last little bit, um, I mean, lean Mac, he produced over half of the dogs out of that 100. Half of the dogs were produced by lean Mac in that catalog in that book that I was reading.
financially, would I have to pay a pretty penny to talk that man into letting me I inseminate my female with that with Lean Max last available?
Yeah, most definitely, yes, sir.
It's big time money?
Yeah,
Like racehorse money?
yes, sir. Racehorse money.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm
Yeah, and
tempted.
there's a lot of great producing sires. There's a lot of great producing sires out there that maybe didn't accomplish as much as some of the others, but throw really great pup and vice versa. There's a lot of great studs out there that didn't produce great puppies, but were very accomplished.
Do you have any success or knowledge or experience in good dogs that are, I guess, crossbred to where do you have any good dogs that you've trained that were part lab, part golden retriever? I know that that is not sought after, but does it ever happen where like do you even breed an American lab with a British lab in your career? Are you afraid to do that? Tell me about crossbreeding and what you're willing to do, or does it have to be dead on every time?
It's tough for me. In our profession, we strive to be a professional ran business. I can't get into that, because the lab folks don't want their breed watered down, and neither do the golden people want theirs watered down. Um, but yes, there's a lot of stuff that was crossbred years ago. I live in quail country. This is what we're known for down in here in southeast Georgia, but they called it a drop, which was a setter and an English pointer, and a lot of people did that. They claimed that the setter was a little bit slowed the English pointer down a little bit and could get into more cover, briars, and stuff like that. But you had the fire and the horsepower out of that English pointer to run all day in front of your Jeep. So that's called a drop. And, a lot of these um, breeds are getting into a lot of golden doodles, labradoodles, and we do train a lot of that stuff. But at the same time, going back to how this conversation originated when we were started talking, is health. When you get into that stuff, you start having a lot of health problems.
Real quick though, American lab, British labs, is that okay if their veterinarian checkout comes back?
Neither side would want that.
Neither side would want that. Really? Okay.
American breeders wouldn't want to breed with British breeders. British breeders would. Now, does it happen? It happens a lot. It happens a lot, and more so American and English. So English is more of your big blocky. British is a blocky dog too, but British and English are different as well. But American and English, a lot of people were breeding those for the looks, but to get the horsepower. But if you're a true American breeder, no, you wouldn't want to breed with the English or British, and vice versa for the other two. They want to stay in their lines, and they want to promote their lines, and because there's different traits that all three give, and it's kind of a specialty thing and what they want. So to what if you did it the right way, you take two American dogs. Well, if that American dog, he's just a whiner in the duck blind. He's got a ton of horsepower. You take him to a field trial and he kills it. But in the duck blind, he's just too much of a whiner. Well, you don't breed him with a British to kill some of that drive. You find an American bred dog that has the factors and the traits of being a more calm, docile dog in and around camp and in the duck blind, and you breed him to that. Same for the English, same for the British. Maybe your British doesn't have enough horsepower when he has to break ice. Well, you need to find a British stud that has enough horsepower or a lot of horsepower and breed to that and ramp that up. Don't go and find a field champion that has a lot of horsepower and breed to American field champion.
Last breeding question for Brad Arrington, Mossy Pond Kennel and Lodge. It's the draft. You keep referring to Jordan. He came out of North Carolina. They just got whipped by TCU on Bill Belichick's inaugural game on campus. I saw Jordan was there watching. But you're the coach, you're the head guy, you're the maybe the president of player development. What are you picking as your number one draft pick of all time for duck hunting? All of it. I want. Is it American Lab? What color is it? Is it male or female? What is Brad Arrington pick? Or will you piss a lot of your customers off if you have an opinion on this?
Oh no, I like a good dog. I mean, I have beagles, I have setters, I have English pointers, I have Walker hounds, tree and walkers. I mean, I have 250 personal dogs that belong to the business and myself, so I love dogs. But if I was going duck hunting and we were going to slay them, and it wasn't with my kids, me and you were just going to go and really hunt hard as we could for 10, 15 days. It'd be probably a black American Lab, but
Male or
I've
female? Does that
male,
matter?
male.
Really?
Hmm.
Why? Why male? Because they have more stamina, more go? Do they have more longevity? Do they have more grit? Because a lot of people would choose a female that I've talked to in the dog world. Why does Brad Arrington choose a male?
I mean, for me and you, hardcore duck hunting, the male's got a little bit more grit, a little bit more go. I've had some females that can do it though. I mean, I've had some females that I'd put against any male, but I mean, if there are more males out there that can do it than females, I mean, on the rough, tough 10, 15, 20 days straight days. Now, at the same time, I bring my 4 kids and me and you're doing a pleasure hunt and we're hanging around the house. That dog in the background right there, which is my personal chocolate lab that lays on no, in my picture.
Okay, I
My
got you now.
Yep, right there.
Yeah.
So that's Trigger. He's he lays at the foot of my bed every night. He loves on my kids, but during duck season when I get up and he sees camo on, he's waiting at the door. I mean, he can do it as good as any dog I've ever seen do it, but he's done a lot of it. I mean, he gets in the boat with 6 strangers. He sits in one spot, doesn't move. They may pet him on the head. He acknowledges them, looks at them with his eyes, but doesn't lick them, doesn't bother them. And we get to the hole. He goes to his place board. He sits right there as we get ready. He doesn't bother anybody. We knock down a volley of birds. If some more birds are working, he sits there like a gentleman. We work them in, kill them, and when I say his name, he gets the job done.
You just brought up a good point, Brad Arrington, about the word etiquette. When you go on a duck hunt and you have a dog and everybody has the greatest dog, but etiquette wise, you always say, all right, this is this man or this woman's spot. I was invited. You usually ask, is it okay if I bring a dog? Do you have a dog on file? I got this really good master hunter, field trial champion. Do you mind if I bring her? Mind if I bring him? Right? That's etiquette. Is there etiquette on the other side, Brad Arrington, meaning that you just said that you set Trigger in a boat with 6 strangers every morning during duck season in South Georgia? Is it okay for me just to reach over and pet Trigger? Or is there etiquette on the other side that you ask the owner, hey, is it okay if we pet da 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 da? Is there etiquette on the other side that you want to, like when you see a service dog, they have a vest on that says, do not pet, stuff like that, for example. In the hunting world, is there etiquette on the other side? Or
You
should there
know,
be? Or should there be?
I don't know. That's a tough one, right? For me, I don't touch another man or woman's dog unless I ask, and then at that point, I'm not going to rile that dog up. I mean, and here's another thing. They might have bad traits. The dog might be hurt. You hit him, touch him the wrong way, and then he's hurt or doesn't feel well, and he snaps or growls, and then that puts the owner in a bad situation. Feeding another person's dog is the only one that I'll actually say something about. If somebody pets Trigger in the boat, that's why he's there. I'm fine with it. Um, which he's very wise to it. He knows how to handle it as opposed to some. If I was taking a 12-month-old puppy out there to work for the first time, and I was guiding with him, and they started loving on him in the boat. And I'd been really harping on him where his place was back there by me, where he's out of the way of the tiller of the motor, but he's in a good, safe spot. And as soon as they touch him, he moves or adjusts, and it puts him out of rhythm from what we've been training on 4 and 5 times a day for the last 6 months. Yeah, I'd try to be polite, but that's not good etiquette. But the feeding of somebody else's dog, that bothers me. This diet is so important to me, and that's of course that's why we're with Eukanuba, and that's why we preach it. I mean, the diet of these dogs and health that we started on earlier, and the genetics of health, and keeping the longevity of these dogs where we can keep using them. And they already don't live long enough, even if they're 15 years old. But the diet is so important to me, and I'm such a particular about it. Yeah, feeding my dog in front of me, that's a big no-no. I want to know exactly what he takes in, at what time, everything's scheduled, and he's a happy dog. He's not overfed, underfed. He's not belching and bloated in the blind. He feels good. He's an athlete. He's there to work. Um, he's a loved athlete, but he is an athlete. So don't, yeah, don't
You,
feed my dog.
you bring up a great point in two different ways here. It's a great transition into what my next question was already going to be, my next thought. But I don't even know how many countless times around a campfire, in the duck blind, in the goose pit, you got the best meat market in the world. Your butcher's made the best goose sticks of all time. Guys are chomping on them. They got jalapeno in there. They got cheddar cheese mix in there. And the next thing you know, they got one in their hand and they're letting your dog eat it out of their hand. And
Yeah.
I look at it like, wait a minute, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. The ones that ask, I probably come across as a bougie dog owner because I'm like, absolutely not. We're sponsored by the best jerky company in the world, Jack Links, and even when I have it, and they're like, "Well, are you going to give Axel a bite?" And I'm like, "Nope, he's not getting one." And they look at me like I'm a bad dog owner, but I'm going along with what you said, that I've been taught this philosophy of what goes into a dog, like a high-powered athlete. Like my daughter wants to be a high-powered athlete, but then I watch her eat a candy bar like it's nothing, and I'm like, "Hey, you understand that?" But I get it. She's 14; she can get away with it right now. But dogs, man, I don't allow it either, and that's because of being around you and Eukanuba and our partnership. I get it. So don't feed a dog a beef stick or an egg McMuffin unless you ask, and it's okay with some owners. That's fine. But don't just sit there and assume that just because that dog's looking at you with those eyes and smells that goose stick that you're going to give him or her a bite, right?
That's right. And, a lot of people are going to think I'm nuts about that, but I don't want my dog, upset stomach, and their stomach is so tender, to keep it right. I don't. Here's where I beat them to the punch. If they ask, I say, of course, that's easy. And I have a Ziploc bag of Eukanuba kibble in my blind bag. I always keep it with me, cold days or slow days. I want to give that to them where they're not sitting there shaking, where they can have the energy and the calories to perform, and it keeps them warm. So if they ask, I'll take that bag out and give them some kibble to give them. But even at that rate, that's me kind of putting a Band-Aid on it, and trying to be a nice guy. I mean, I can do it and not interfere with the hunt, but when we're in the duck swamp, it's time to hunt. We're working, so I try to stay focused on what we're doing, and not do any feeding.
I get a little lazy during the summer. I let Axel fade off a little bit on his training. He's off of the trailer now. He's not in Brad Arrington and Lee Howard's camp at full time anymore, running the hunt test circuit. He's at home. He's got an owner that's busy with whatever life. He gains a few pounds. Let's talk about the importance, and I want to go into what Eukanuba does with their Fit Body line of food. Talk to me about your philosophy, Brad Arrington, of, well, I'm just going to feed less. I'm just not going to feed as much. I'm only going to feed 1 cup a day. There, there's still what we call nutrients, nutritional value, the protein they're getting, the things that they need out of that food. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts and what you do to get that dog's weight off, get him or her in shape for going into the season. Is there a right way to feed? And is something like Fit Body a better choice than just saying, "Oh, I'm just not gonna feed as much," taking a chance of leaving that nutritional part of the diet out of the dog's everyday taking?
Well, it's exactly like a human, exactly like your daughter um, performing in volleyball. They're going to tell her what to take in, what not to take in, and how to get in shape. It's the same for these dogs. I mean, we want to give these dogs. I mean, what do they tell you to lose weight? Hey, take in more protein. So they're telling you to eat more protein to lose weight and get in better shape and look more fit, but you have to burn those calories and have to exercise. It's the same thing for these dogs. I want to see definition on that last rib, maybe two ribs, and the dog tone. A lot of people think that they'll show me a dog and look, my dog's really healthy. Well, you can't see any definition behind the rib cage, and that is not healthy. That is an overweight dog. That is no different than a human. You want to exercise, you want to get that heart rate up, 120 to 130 beats over 30, 45 minutes at the time, to build the lungs up where they can endure those long days in the swamp. And then at the same time, you want to burn those calories and take in more protein. So, cut and feed. Um, there will be times that we cut feed, like what you're talking about. But in a perfect world, if you have access to exercise dogs, no, cutting feed after you find the perfect balance for that dog on what they need to take in when you're feeding 2 and 3 times a day, those smaller amounts, how many cups and kibble that dog needs, you need to offset it with work, with exercise.
It's easy to assume our dogs are always in shape. They wake up out of a deep sleep and they're ready to go, whether it's cold water, a 400-yard blind. They never seem to show us signs that they're not ready. But in reality, Brad Arington, talk to me about this time of year right now, and even before right now. It's a little even late to start now, unless you're not going to Canada until mid October for your first hunt. Is 45 days enough? What is enough to get a dog? Never let them get out of shape at all. But if they do, how long do we need to schedule with a consistent weight management, feeding, the right food, the right exercise program, protocol, like you're describing in your last statement? How do we get them ready? Because I've had dogs get drop tail because I swam them too hard, too fast, or maybe too cold of water. But I want you to explain what drop tail is and what you compare it to on a human athlete. Can they pull a hamstring? Can they hurt a hip being out of shape if they're too heavy, running through a disced up cornfield that's rutted up and they're off balance? um, what does it do to their cardio if we push them too hard, too fast on retrieving 40 birds out on a Canadian hunt right out of the gate if they're not in shape? Talk to me how important preseason prep is. How long do we need? And what can happen if the dog is out of shape when you get on one of those hunts up in Canada where you might have a chance at 40 or 50 retrieves the first day?
So we have a tune-up course here, and we get engulfed with dogs. Dogs we've trained that are from 10 years old all the way down to freshly trained dogs that are 16 months old. It's 6 to 8 weeks. It's in a perfect world, 2 months. So yeah, after July 4th, we get hit hard for them because down here in Georgia, dove hunting is a huge thing. Huge. It comes in this Saturday, and there's not many dog customers that I train for in the South that will not be hunting this weekend, and it's the most scariest day of my whole year. And it is opening day of dove season because it's going to be 95 degrees. These dogs and these owners haven't taken the right precautions to get these dogs in shape, and they go out and these dogs just can't keep up. They've been laying on the living room floor, on the hardwood floor, and then they're going to go out in 70-degree air conditioning. Then they're going to go out there and on a 90-degree, 95-degree afternoon and try to pick up even 6 to 8 dove. It's just too much. They're already too hot and too out of shape before it starts happening. And people need to know real quick. I'm bouncing around the signs of that. If you got to have water up under their between their legs and their crotch area, under their like their armpits, on top of their ears, where their tail connects around their butt and the back. Those places, rubbing alcohol and water. You need to keep those places cool. And if their tongue starts getting thick, fat, that dog's in bad shape already. You're in a mess. My recommendation, is shade, and they should have been in shape. We should have been working for the last 8 weeks getting these dogs in shape, and that's starting early mornings, at daylight, and late evenings around dusk, and getting these dogs built up. No different than if me and you were about to go play a game of tennis or racquetball and or one-on-one basketball. I mean, if me and you went, I don't know about yourself, if I went out there right now, I'd be blowing after 5 minutes. But now if I took 8 weeks and I put it on my mind, I was going to get in shape where I could go to fly out to Nevada and beat Chad Belding in racquetball in an hour game, and I had 8 weeks to do it, I could get my body in shape and my lungs in shape and be prepared to play. But I mean, it's same for these dogs. But a lot of people, they get excited about the hunt. I love hunting as much as anybody, but they get excited about the hunt and they put their dog in bad situations, especially down here in the South in first weekend of September dove season.
Brad Arrington, we don't play racquetball as much out here anymore. We play a game called pickleball, and I'd give you 10 weeks, and I still think I'd beat you. Um, it's a great point you're making right there, and I wanna compound that with this thought. I just had my personal trainer in here on a podcast series, a 3-part series, Hot Seat, to talk about hunters getting ready for the season. What can I be doing? And I specifically asked him something that goes along with what you just alluded to in your last statement again, Brad Arrington, was, let's say that dog's in shape. You've been training him or her for 8, 10 weeks and they're ready to roll. And then you go back to my statement about they come out of a deep sleep and it seems like triggers at the foot of your bed. He's been loving on your kids all night. Now he wakes up. Here's Brad putting on his lanyard. Here's the band's clinging, the camo going on. Bam, he's ready. Is it important to warm up an in shape dog in the morning, or just letting them go on a 200-mile blind retrieve, first one out of the chute, or a long swim? Because when I'm going to the gym early morning and I get on something real hard before I warm up, I feel like I'm out of shape. My VO2 goes way up, my heart rate goes way up because I haven't given my muscles and my oxygen a chance to get regulated for that morning. Is it important to warm the dog up even if he or she is in shape every morning?
Um, so probably 10 years ago, I was at a field trial, and one of the best, I guess the best, if you did all the research, a gentleman by the name of Mike Lardy. Um, I saw his truck, and he had another guy or gal walking his dogs on leash before he took the dog to the line for the event for each trial. And I was like, "What are they doing?" I was like, "What are they doing? That seems a little excessive." And they kept doing it, and over the years, I was finding out that I was tearing a lot of cruciates on some dogs, and I was taking what I felt like all the precautions I should. I was airing them several times that morning. I had the right pads in their boxes with them. But just like Mr. Lardy was doing, what I learned is these dogs need a good 10, 12, 15-minute warm up, especially on these 5 and 6 year olds, to get their joints moving, no different than us. So, 100%. I am living proof, learn it through hard knocks. These dogs definitely need to be warmed up. That doesn't mean like the old school way of what we called roading them. We set them out of the truck before we got to the dove chute and run them for 4 miles, but just a good, steady, hard paced walk, letting that dog stretch. I like to watch them stretch. I like to kind of make them stretch them out, let them walk really good. Then maybe some short retrieves before I go in the duck blind. I'll always have a bumper. You've seen me do it 1,000 times, a bumper or ATB in my blind bag. Let them do a few retrieves, get them warmed up, and then they're ready to go. Because typically, when you're going to pull a muscle or tear a cruciate or strain something, is when the body's cold. no different than humans. And yes, 100%. You hit the nail on the head. That's a great point. Warm these dogs up before they go out and before they make that first hardcore retrieve because they're excited just like us, right? Their adrenaline's pumping, and when that first duck goes down, they're gonna exert every ounce of energy that they have to get to that duck as fast as they can and get back to you as fast as they can. So if they're not loose and warm, um, what does baseball guys do? What does a pitcher do? He's gonna get out there and stretch and roll around and stretch all his muscles and roll on the ball, work everything out. Then he's gonna stretch his arms. Then he's gonna soft toss and get his arm loose and do bands. And then, well, there's science behind all that. That's why they're in the MLB. Those trainers are making dang sure they don't get hurt. Well, it's the same thing for these dogs. Same thing Mr. Lardy was doing with his dogs 10 years ago that I thought was kind of crazy. It is what you have to do it if you want to protect your dog and keep them healthy.
Does temperature have anything to do with it, Brad Arrington? Meaning that if I'm going from a situation like I get Axel from South Georgia, and now all of a sudden it's 20 degrees Fahrenheit for the low temperature that morning, a pitcher in baseball in major leagues can put a hooded sweatshirt on. He could put long sleeves on. He could put thermals on underneath. He could do something to keep that body temperature consistent. Do you do the same for a dog? Do you get him out and get him acclimated to that weather right away? Do you put him in the cab of the truck and blast the heater and get his body temperature way up? Or is that even worse than to take him out when his body's all that warm? Because I know me, if I blast the heater on me and then I get out in a cold morning, I feel worse than getting out and getting acclimated to that cold temperature. Can the temperature change mess with the dog?
The temperature definitely plays an effect, especially the real cold weather. And of course, the heat on heat exhaustion and dehydrating a dog on the heat. But the cold weather, 100%. The joints are more likely to have problems, to tear, to stretch, to strain. But what I like to do here's one thing that, and maybe a lot of people disagree with me. I'm pretty sold on this though. If we're duck hunting in 25-degree weather tomorrow, I do not want my dog sleeping in 70-degree um, heat in the inside at night. I don't want him sitting out there in 25 either, but I want it somewhere around 45 or 50. And you say, well, Brad, how do you do that? A lot of times it's with a box. You know, our boxes, we put our boxes and we put weather shield over them and make sure, or on our trucks, or shut all the louvers. Make sure that box, I have a thermometer in all our dog trucks that goes to my phone, and I can tell what the temperature is in there. If we're running a field trial tomorrow and it's 30 degrees and I'm in Minnesota, Missouri, or whatever, and we're away from this South Georgia heat and it's going to be 33 degrees when we wake up, that dog's going to sleep in about 50-degree weather that night. The next morning, now I'm still going to go through all the precautions because it's cold, probably a little bit more to warm that body up and to get him good and loose, stretch him and walk him and run him, get him loose. But I am not a fan of a dog if he's going in the cold swamp in the morning to him to be laying in the 70-degree warm house all night.
Makes total sense. That's why I wanted to ask because the mindset of most dog owners, I think, would be the opposite of like, I want him or her to be as comfortable as possible, knowing what they're getting ready to go into. And
No,
you
it's
got
it's not good. It's just like a wild animal. That they adapt and that's why they blow coats. I mean, I've seen owners, their dogs blowing coats in December, and that's because they're not letting that dog stay cool during the day. You know, if you have to go to work, it doesn't hurt for that dog. I want him to have some sunshine where he can lay in the sunshine. But if you're going to work in the winter on December 5th and it's on a Tuesday, I want that dog to experience some cool weather where his coat acclimates for it, and he's getting used to it. He stays inside all week, Monday through Friday, and he only goes outside to use the bathroom. And then on Saturday, we go and keep him in that cold, frigid water. I don't think it's healthy. I know it's not healthy for him. I've witnessed it.
what is drop tail? I ask because I've experienced it twice in the last 7 or 8 seasons. one with one of my dogs, one with another man's dog up in Canada. What is it compared to on a human injury? How do we prevent it? How is it caused? Is it the human's fault 100% with preparation? And how does it make the dog feel? Because it seems like they just lose all control in the water when I've seen it happen. They can't really swim. You referred to it as a rudder, I think, of they don't have their rudder anymore. Talk to me about what that is. Is there another term for it? Am I saying it right by saying drop tail? And it doesn't happen quite a bit in the lab world, in the hunting world.
So drop tail, cold tail, um, typically it happens because the muscles at the base of the tail aren't conditioned or aren't in shape enough to perform when somebody takes their dog out. And what that tail does, it acts like a rudder. A lot of people, in labs like an otter tail. Well, when they spin in the water, chasing a cripple or spin in the water because we blew the whistle to direct them, they use that tail to balance them. If without the tail, and you've noticed this, like a bulldog will do it. A bulldog with no tail, he'll try to turn in the water and sometimes he'll just roll over. Well, a lab will do the same thing. So they use that tail to put out there, and those muscles at the base of it are directing that tail. And on a 70, 80 pound male dog, I mean, that tail's working. And you think about it, other than that, that tail doesn't get much exercise. It doesn't, unless he's sitting there begging for food, right? Um, so it acts as a rudder, and if these dogs aren't conditioned to it. And yes, can you get them in shape? 100%. And that just goes back to normal exercise and work in the water. Now, I've explained it in the past as similar. I think just watching the dog's reaction, it acts and it feels a lot like shin splints. If you've ever had shin splints really bad, um, I think it's like that. It's tender to the touch. It's tender when you use that muscle at all. I don't think that it's like a pulled hamstring because the dog can still go, but it is very tender to the touch. Sometimes a pulled hamstring may not be tender to the touch. Shin splints, if you've ever had them bad, like I've had them, they're tender to the touch. When you use that muscle group, it is painful. And there's only one remedy, and that's rest after you got it. And cold tail, there's only one rest. Only one remedy is rest, and you can give them something like Remedial or to ease the pain, but you're not fixing the problem except with rest. And another thing, a lot of people will get them and put them in a box. That's not the answer. You want that dog to be able to sprawl out and lay out fully extended where that tail can relax back there. You don't want it curled up under them in a box like it would be when they're in a box and closed up. So it typically it's the 2 or 3 inches right at the base of the tail that'll become extremely sore from that dog trying to use that tail to we do a drill called swim by. So when you're teaching a dog to do hand signals and cast in the water, we put them in a channel and we'll teach them to go out there and just stop on the whistle, look at us. Okay, we want you to go left. We want you to go right. Now we want you to go straight up. Well, all of our trainers work 3 or 4 lessons a day with every dog on the property. And when these dogs are in swim by, um, even if they're totally conditioned, professional athlete, sometimes they will get this drop tail, cold tail. So what we've done now, if they're in the training of in that drill of swim by, what we'll only do 1 or 2 lessons a day, and the other lessons they'll get landmarks or something like keep them out of the water. But yeah, it's very painful. It happens a lot of times with unconditioned, um, trained dogs when they start swimming for the first time of the year.
Do you ever switch your dog's um, regimen, or do you keep it pretty consistent, Brad, personally, of exercise, training, diet, nutrition, rest, recovery, fun time, socialization? Is it is it consistency everything when it comes to a well-balanced dog? Or is there like a side of the teeter-totter that you would favor of no, you have to stay on that dog discipline wise, exercise wise, training wise. It's got to be beat into his or her head. What is the balance like when it comes to the life cycle of a performance dog like we're discussing right now? A Eukanuba duck dog that we want at the highest level. What is that balance like, or is there one side of the teeter totter that you favor?
Well, depends on what our goals are, and that's what I ask my owners. What are our goals here? Are our goals just to make him obedient enough where he's not jumping on company and but you want a dog around the house. That's what you want, a dog. Or you're training for the Olympics. Okay, the Olympics are 8 months away. You're training for the Olympics to get a gold medal, the best of the best in the world. Well, yes, everything matters. How you take your breath, how you get up in the morning, which side of the bed you roll off, how you stretch, what you eat, what goes in your body. I mean, everything matters. At that point, if you're wanting to have a national field champion, yes, everything that dog does has a reasoning behind it. Everything, every single minute of every day, every second. If you want to have the absolute, I got some guides here that are very competitive guides, and they guide here, and we guide every morning, and they got a lab that goes out. They want their lab to be the absolute best. So, with their dog, do they pet him on the head? Do they reward him? Do they tell him he's a good dog? Is that dog happy? Yes, he is. But every single minute of every single day, that there's a reasoning behind what they're doing. So it just depends on what your goals are. And there's some obedience guys in here that customers that I got, they can have a party of 40 people on their back porch in their house, in and out, and they tell old Joe to lay on his place board. He better not move. I don't care if somebody walks by with a hot dog in their hand and they sit and kneel down and pet him. He better not move. And with consistency and having that balance of praise plus um, holding him accountable, can you have an amazing attitude and a happy dog and still have a dog that can perform at that elite level? 100%. That is what where everybody is confused, is they think, well, if you keep him at that elite soldier level, he's not happy. That's what they strive off of. They love it. They want to be held accountable. That respect goes farther than the word love with a dog. Um, these I have some ladies and some men that just coo their dog and love on them all the time, and then I'm training them over here. I'm not abusing them. I'm just holding them accountable and making them do the task at hand. Do this a lot. I'll sit them in a chair and I sit in a chair. And I'll say, all right, for 5 minutes, we're not going to say anything. We're just going to sit here. You've had this puppy all the way up until he's 9 months old. All you've done is love on him, kiss him in the face, let him sleep with you. And I've had him for 2 months and I've just held him accountable. I still pet him. I love on him. We're buds, but I hold him accountable, hold him to an elite standard. For 5 minutes, we're not going to say anything. After the 5 minutes, 99% of the time, the dog's sitting by me looking to me for affection or looking to me for a command or to look at them or to talk to them. And their person that raised them, that fed them treats, loved them in the bed, woke up on Sunday mornings and they're holding the dog. That dog's up under my chair looking up at me. All right, Coach Brad, what do we do next? How can I please you? That respect goes so far with a dog. That doesn't mean they're unhappy, doesn't mean now it's got to be done the right way. You have to hold them accountable, but you have to build them up with praise and affection as well. But if all you do is show them affection and all you do is cool them and all you do is feed them treats, they don't respect
Damn it, now I know why my daughter loves her volleyball coach more than me.
you.
That's a great drill though. That's interesting to that's hopefully that owner gets it and
Yeah.
doesn't get his or her feelings hurt when they witness that.
Well, what I'm trying to prove at that point now, if they do the same thing and they hold them accountable and they have that respect, plus they do all the other stuff that they love on them in the house and hang out with them. Now that is the ultimate situation. That's the ultimate because I don't have time to have them in my bed. And I'm not saying having them in your bed is wrong. I was making an example, but being able to love on them and kiss them on the head and do all those things, but holding them accountable when it's time. Now that's the ultimate situation.
I've talked to you before about the feeding part of the yearly progression of a dog, and obviously I'm specifically talking about duck dogs. Do you still have the mindset that you can feed something like the Eukanuba adult blend, and then as we get close to the season, will you put trigger on more of a performance, higher protein food? And we can compare that to human athletes again as well. But do you transition from diet to diet depending on what who the dog is?
Yes, you can. You know, with a transition, it's a process. So like if you're gonna go through that transition, you have to blend the food and weed it off. It starts at a 80-20, then it goes to a 60-40, and then it flips to a 40-60, and then a 20-80. But you have to blend that food over 2 or 3 weeks where it doesn't mess up the gut. But um you know, in a perfect world, we keep them at an athletic level, where it's the same, and or on the flip side. But yes, in the summer we get lax, and July is a month for me that I take some time with the family and go to the lake and go to the beach and stuff. So yes, at that time I do transition out of the performance, but I'm always eager to get back to work and get back on the performance. So, but for the guys that don't feed as much, do you need the high protein and all those calories that the performance gives and provides? No, sir. You need a dog food that fits what your schedule is and what your regimen is um, for your dog. And Eukanuba has plenty of varieties. I mean, old puppies, activity level, everything. And I could I could help with anybody if they want to call me, and I can educate them on these things.
Yeah, they got senior, they have adult, they have puppy, they have fit body, they have performance. The Eukanuba diet. Brad, talk to me just real quick. Why do you feed it? What is your overall consensus of Eukanuba in your world? Because you make your living with dogs. You already said that you have over 200 dogs that are your personal dogs for your hunting operation, your kennel. You add on more dogs than that. You're around dogs literally almost every single day of your life, if not every day. A lot of dogs. Why do you choose Eukanuba?
It was very simple to me. Probably, I don't know, about 10, 12 years ago. Um, I started in the bird dog world, and I started trialing short hairs, English pointers, and then I got into the lab world. But about 10 years ago, I was like, you know, all these plantations in the South that are running these English pointers, by the time you get to February and March, it was breaking my heart when I would go and look at these, because they'd run 14, 18 miles in the morning, then they'd run 14, 18 miles in the afternoon. But every one of them, you could see their hip bones, and you could see, instead of definition of one or two ribs, you could see four or five. And I said, man, there's got to be something different. And at the time, I was feeding a different feed. And in February, our dogs were getting that way. And there was nothing that I could do with the other feeds. I could feed 5 times a day and feed small amounts, keep that energy poured to them. Have a guy at night helping me feed throughout that night, everything. I could not. I Now our dogs weren't in as bad shape of the examples that I'm imagining, but Eukanuba came to me, and you know, I fed every dog food that there is out there. If you name a dog food, Brad Arrington has fed it through Mossy Pond's kennel. From the time I was 17 years old to 42 right now, I've fed it. All right. Well, 10 or 12 years ago, I was like, there's got to be something different. Well, um, we were talking to Eukanuba. I had the Arthurs in Lincolnton, Georgia. They fed it. They were telling me how great it was. At the time, Mr. Hugh Arthur was my mentor, and he was telling me how great it was, and I tried it. And I didn't try it on the labs. He was like, well, are you feeding it to the labs? I said, I'm not feeding it to the labs. It's February. I want to see if these English pointers, if they change, then I'll change. So I fed it to about 10 English pointers that I was running on my quail operation. And sure enough, within 10 days, they started putting on good weight. And we were running them the same. We were hunting them the same. They had more energy after that evening hunt on a Thursday or Friday. They weren't easing back to the Jeep and the wagon. They had more energy, clearer eyes, coats that shedded water. When they jump into our little potholes for to cool off, they come out and it would just beat up on their back. And I didn't. It was too good to be true. What I'm telling you is the truth. And then I fed my whole kennel of English pointers Eukanuba, Eukanuba Performance, and I wanted to see if it was just those 10, and every one of them within 10 days looked like they should go in the show ring. Muscle tone, I could see the definition of that one. The hip bones went away. The dogs felt good. In the mornings when we got there at 4:30, 5 o'clock, they were bouncing at the gate, not in their boxes. They were ready to work. And this isn't scientific terminology. This is proof in the pudding. But we probably got 150, 180 English pointers, probably another 30, 40 short hairs, probably 30 boykins and cockers for flushers. Of course, all the labs that we got, over 120 dogs, client dogs that are from all mixed breeds. Um, German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Doberman Pinschers, Pit Bulls, for obedience on all those dogs. Then our competition labs that we have all kind of breeds here on the property, and no matter what they're here for, whether they're here for obedience or they run 40 miles a day after a quail or a field trial lab that gets 6 setups a day, these dogs are healthy. They feel good. They have the energy. Their coats shiny. These dogs, the energy part's what I'm after, and they can hold weight no matter how much work you can put on them. And it was knocking me back in the field trial circuit back then of how many setups I could get in a day. Um, but yeah, it was just proof in the pudding, and the dog food company and everybody on that team, the scientists behind it, their whole staff has been very helpful. If I have a question or my customer has a question, they answer it. And it's just been a great team and a great partner to partner up with, and it's worked great for us.
Brad Arington, Mossy Pond Kennel and Lodge, South Georgia, the official dog training outfit of the Foul Life TV and the Foul Life podcast. I love the results that come out. I mean, I could talk for days, and people have heard me on here on my solo Eukanuba Duck Dog podcast talk about Axel and what he's done and how many standing ovations he's gotten and how he makes me feel inside and what it's doing to me to see him go to this next level of maturity in his life and the sadness I have knowing that I might only have 1 or 2 seasons left in the field with Axel. Like what Brad Arrington alluded to a little bit earlier in our conversation and discussion was that's what they're here for. These dogs want to be performing like that. I promise you. I'm not saying that you can't take a lab and make him or her a pet and just leave him as a pet, but I'm telling you, they're put on earth for a different, a different thing, a different job, a different career. I don't know what you call it. I got in trouble one time at a dog seminar for saying they're like a machine, and there people are like, "No, they're not. They're more like a human." I'm like, I don't know, man. They turn into something that when that switch goes off and that key turns, I've seen them go from a dog that has an obedience level that's unbelievable, and they have zero disobedience, and their disposition is unbelievable, and their personality is so loving and caring, and they just go into something that makes you go, wow, that is unbelievable to watch. And they don't have to be a world-class athlete like Brad talked about. They don't have to be on the level of Lean Mac. These dogs want to perform. I truly feel that in my heart that they want to perform on a daily basis for their handler, their owner, for their family. But to each their own. Um, to know that Axel has done what he's done in the last 9 years, it blows my mind. I'm so honored to know Brad, Lee, the entire crew, Miss Ellen, Hannah, everybody at Mossy Pond. We have it documented. We're going to have a long career together still, but we have Axel documented for so many seasons of what he's done. And I just want people to understand that it puts me on a different level personally as a hunter and a conservationist and a provider to know that I got to do it with Axel. I wouldn't want to hunt without Axel. I pray every day that I get a puppy from Axel. Um, it's about to happen, I feel in my heart. But Brad, I can't say it any more clear than what you guys are doing at Mossy Pond has literally. I talk to Terry Denman at Mojo all the time of the power of the Mojo and what it's done to duck hunting and how many ducks have finished over a Mojo in a cornfield in Nebraska where the other Mossy Pond Lodge is, or in North Dakota, or a pea field in Saskatchewan. I've seen it 1,000 times, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of green-headed ducks over a Mojo. And I tell Mr. Terry, you've changed duck hunting. You have made it to where kids and adults and men and women and aunts and uncles and fathers and da have got to experience the power and the majesty of ducks. It's just all there is to it. And what you've done, Brad, and what Lee has done, and what Mossy Pond is doing is you have created a lifetime, an eternity of stories and memories and camaraderie and high fives and handshakes and smiles. It just goes on and on and on because I don't know if there is a more important part of the duck hunting saga than your dog. I just don't think there is. You could have your boat and your four-wheeler and your truck and your big tires and your duck call and your championships on stage in Stuttgart or Easton, Maryland with the Canada Goose Call. But man, you ain't going to get a duck hunter say there's anything more important than his or her dog. So what you're doing, Brad, is unbelievable. Thank you for another awesome episode of Eukanuba Duck Dogs. We have a couple announcements, but before we go into them, Brad, any closing words?
I just appreciate you, Chad, appreciate the Foul Life for having me and giving me the opportunity to expose Mossy Pond, Eukanuba for being a awesome partner and to creating and working their butts off to making an amazing dog food to give my dogs the strength and energy and the health to perform in the field to make me and my brand look good day in and day out. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
And Brad mentions Eukanuba, and this is Eukanuba Duck Dogs. We appreciate Brad and the entire team and crew at Mossy Pond Lodge and Kennel. We have the Benelli Invitational. Everybody knows that the title sponsor of the Foul Life TV is Benelli. The shotguns, the Super Black Eagle 1 back in the day, the 2, and now the 3, and now the 20 gauge SBE3, and now the 28 gauge. Brad uses all Benelli down at the Mossy Pond Lodge. I use all Benelli on the Foul Life. And we are working with Benelli on the 2025 Benelli Invitational that takes place on September 25th, 2025 in Maryland. And it goes to benefit another unbelievable organization. And a good friend of mine, Anthony Pace, out of Colorado, started the Freedom Hunters. Mr. Anthony, if you're listening, I know that you're going to listen to this because you always text me about the episodes. Thank you for what you do for veterans, for active duty military, for wounded veterans and their families, getting them back into the outdoors, getting them back, their boots back on American dirt and in the woods and in the swamps. I don't know how many freedom hunters that I've been able to take, an honor to take. I remember Jake Young in Idaho. I'm looking at a picture of him right now on the wall. And I remember asking Jake, what does this do for you? And he just goes, and with tears in his eyes, he goes, you have no idea the therapy that being in the outdoors provides. Gets their mind off of what they've went through. We take it for granted on a daily basis what these warriors have done, both men and female, brothers and sisters, special forces, everyday forces, every branch of the military, the Coast Guard, the National Guard. Thank you to our military. Thank you to Anthony Pace, and thank you to the Freedom Hunters. And we work with Benelli on the Invitational to provide donations to raise money through silent auction and raffle. And Brad Arington and Team Mossy Pond have teamed up with Eukanuba to get a prize that is unbelievable, that is going to be available on part of the online auctions beginning on September 19th, as well as the live auction on September 25th. One lucky winner is going to receive, I'm going to let Brad talk about this, but Brad, I'm just going to let you announce. I can't believe the first line of the prize. They actually get a puppy.
So what we're going to do, we're going to hand select a puppy that would be a perfect fit, a lot like what we hand selected for you with Axel, a dog that's good in and around the house, very compliant, bred puppy, but has the horsepower to hunt and perform in the field. We're going to give the puppy away. We're also going to give, when that puppy gets of age, we're going to give 2 free months of training. So they can, the owner, whoever wins, the proud owner, a winner, can send that puppy back for training for 2 months. And then after they totally complete their training course, at the end, myself will go out in our duck swamp here in South Georgia as part of our training regiment and our handoff to teach the owner. They will stay here at our lodge. We will go out in the swamp, teach the owner how to that dog get in the boat, get on the dog stand, put decoys out in front of them. When they shoot the birds down, they're actually going to get to hunt and kill these plantation mallards that we have down here. We're going to instruct the owner and the dog how to handle if things go wrong, or we're going to tell the owner how to handle, how to correct, where you don't sour the dog, where the dog keeps a good attitude. And we're going to do that right here in South Georgia. Going to come back, have a good meal, but you're going to stay the night right here at the Mossy Pond Lodge in Georgia. And that is a big prize and a big raffle. But man, this is a huge opportunity for Brad, for Mossy Pond. What the veterans, freedom hunters, what they do for us in our country. This is an amazing thing. I'm so tickled. This is a get to, not a got to. Um, I don't have to do this. Mossy Pond doesn't have to do this. Chad, thank you so much for this opportunity. You and Benelli for bringing this up and giving us the opportunity to be able to get to. We don't have to. We don't got. Sorry, South Georgia. This is a get to, not a got to. This is a blessing to us. Thank you for the opportunity. We are so thrilled and tickled to be able to do this. Thank you.
And I will reiterate and even compound that with there is no value on this. I can't imagine what's going to happen when this goes on the auction. Um, what I just talked about, the lifetime of memories that this is going to provide. And can you imagine with the veteran getting this? If somebody comes out of pocket and gets this prize package from Mossy Pond for a veteran, just think of the therapy, the love, the camaraderie, the memories that that's going to create for a veteran of our armed forces through the Freedom Hunters. Again, the Benelli Invitational, September 25th, 2025. It's a big time sporting clay event. If you want to get involved, you can find more out at benelliusa.com, freedomhunters.com. I've been associated with Freedom Hunters for over a decade now through the Benelli Invitational, the Jim Shockey Classic, which I've emceed many times in the great state of Georgia. I'm honored to be part of the Freedom Hunters family. And here in that prize, a puppy hand selected by Brad Arington and the team at Mossy Pond, 2 months of free training when that dog is ready and socialized with its owner. And then you get to come back, take your dog out into the swamps and a duck hunt with Brad Arington himself guiding you, a boat ride, the dog on a stand, ducks hanging from a strap, calling, mallard ducks setting into the flooded timber of South Georgia, calling the shot, making sure that dog marks, handling, hand signals, casting. I can't ask for anything more, but you get to go back to the lodge and have a meal with the unbelievable chefs at Mossy Pond. That is a prize that you cannot put a value on. I can't wait for Benelli to see this, to hear about it, and to see who wins this unbelievable prize. Again, thank you to Mossy Pond, Benelli, and the Freedom Hunters. Our other announcement is that Eukanuba is now available at Tractor Supply stores. I know that there is a store about 20 miles from Brad. There's a store about 9 miles from where I sit right now. But all the breed sizes, all the diets, the ages, the energy needs, what you have come to expect of the Eukanuba diet and nutritional program is now available in store and online at Tractor Supply. I don't know how many stores Tractor Supply has, but it's a lot. And they are getting more and more into the sporting dog and outdoor world. I'm proud to be associated with Eukanuba, Tractor Supply. Check them out right now. All of those different diets that we've talked about today, from the puppy to the senior to the adult to the premium performance to the fit body, you name it, Tractor Supply is going to carry it. Thank you again to Brad Arington, Mossy Pond, Freedom Hunters, Benelli, and everybody at Tractor Supply for the support. Chad Belding, Brad Arington. This has been another awesome episode of Eukanuba Duck Dogs right here at the Fowl Life.